Hello and welcome to Narayana IAS Daily News Analysis. My name is Abhijit Srivastav and today is 10th February 2024. And let's have a brief overlook on the topics that we are going to discuss here. First is, can Preamble be amended keeping date intact, asks Supreme Court. This article is from page number 10, The Hindu Delhi edition, and this article is discussing over Preamble and its amendability. Apart from these, we'll also be discussing some of the keywords which are associated with our Preamble, because maybe there is a possibility that it can be asked in prelims as well as mains examination. From page number 8, there is a topic, Mandal, Mandir and now market. This article is discussing about 3 important personalities who had played a vital role in our economy, society as well as politics. Third is, from page number 11, fugitives will be extradited, says Finance Minister. Who are fugitives and what are the legal provisions that can ensure these fugitives' extradition? Next is, India can purchase natural gas at below market price. So what is natural gas? How we can extract natural gas? What are the issues associated with natural gas? And how we can ensure that India can purchase natural gas at below market price or below international market price. That will be discussed. And last is bits in pieces, means bilateral investment treaties. What are these treaties? What are the challenges associated with these bilateral investment treaties and how we can improve the situation? All these things will be discussed here. And after that, we'll practice some prelims and mains questions as well. So let's start our discussion. So the first article for today's discussion is, can Preamble be amended keeping date intact, asks Supreme Court. This article talks about 2 important things. One is Preamble of our Constitution, and second is a Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court case is challenging the validity of amendments in the Preamble done by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. We'll be discussing these things in a little bit later, but most important thing here is the Preamble. Preamble is inalienable part of our Constitution, right? And this Constitution is a political document, and this is also a social or socio-economic document. How this is a political document? Because this Constitution tells us how or who should rule the society, who should govern the society first. Second, what should be the roles and responsibility of the government. Third, what should be the fundamental rights or other constitutional rights should be given to the people so that they can prevent themselves from the whims and fancies of any government, right? So that is why this Constitution is a political document. This is a social or socio-economic document because firstly, it represents our history, specifically our struggle against the colonialism. Second, it talks about how society ought to be. For example, what should be the status of institution in our society, specifically the religion. What should be the status of religion? How religion should be placed in our society. Other thing, third is how we can maintain unity in a diverse country like India, right? So that is why this Constitution is also a socio-economic document, right? Why this is important for our UPSC examination. So firstly, how we maintain unity in diversity in India. And our Constitution is one of the most important factor to maintain unity in diverse country like India. So there is a topic in GS paper 1, salient features of Indian society, within which we see a subtopic, unity in diversity. So that is why this article is important. This topic is important. Second is secularism. Our constitution or our preamble talks about secularism. It entails the secularism, right? In GS paper 2, there is a topic Indian Constitution, historical underpinning, evolution and features. So both evolution and features is directly related with this article. Amendments, 42nd Constitutional Amendment is important, and significant provisions and basic structure. How basic structure is also involved, we'll be looking, right? So let's understand the importance of this whole topic through a previous year question. In preliminary examination, UPSC in 2013 asked this question, economic justice as one of the objectives of Indian Constitution. Objective means that is enshrined in our preamble, right? Of the Indian Constitution has been provided in preamble and directive principles of state policy, that is DPSP, right? The fundamental rights and the DPSP, and none of the above, right? In mains examination in 2016, UPSC asked this question, discuss each adjective attached to the word republic in the preamble. Are they defendable in the present circumstances? So that we need to discuss here, right? What is the context? Supreme Court in recent case by Subramaniam Swamy is a very prominent leader and economist, and he sought to removal of the words socialist and secular. The Supreme Court observed that whether the preamble of the Constitution should be or could be amended without altering the date of adoption, that is 26th November of 1949. So this was the case, and that is why they are proceeding with the case. Firstly, we have to understand the preamble. What is preamble? Preamble is an introductory statement. Introductory statement which talks about the objectives and philosophies. So you can take analogy from preface of a particular book that you are reading. So preface talks about what you can expect in the book, right? So that is how preamble is also an introductory statement which clarifies the objectives and philosophies of a particular document, right? This idea of preamble which should be attached with the constitution of a particular country, this was started by American Constitution. So American Constitution was the first to begin with this concept of preamble, and later on many countries adopted this trend, right? India also adopted preamble inspired by American Constitution, and Indian preamble contains the summary or essence of the Constitution in the preamble itself, right? There is a prominent jurist named as Palkhiwala, and according to Palkhiwala, our preamble is an identity card of our Constitution because it gives summary or essence of our Constitution, right? So let's read the preamble itself. We, the people of India. The people of India, it's not talking about a particular monarchy, it's not talking about a particular king or any government. It talks about we, the people of India. So the ultimate power lies within the hands of the people of India. Also, people of India is giving legitimacy to our Constitution. So we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a say de re. So means sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. What is sovereign? Sovereign entails two concepts. One is India is independent. India is free from any other entity, right? Second thing is India is capable of handling its own affairs, whether it's internal affair or any external affair. So we don't entertain any kind of interference either in internal affairs of India or in external affairs of India. So this is sovereignty. What is socialism and what is secularism? We'll be looking in a little bit later. What is democratic? Democratic means two things. One is people elect their own representative. People elect their own government, right? First thing. And second thing, popular control over collective decision-making process, right? So this is democracy or democratic. And last is republic. Republic also incorporates two concepts. One is the head of state is elected and not nominated, or not, this position is not hereditary. So it's against any monarchy, right? It's antagonistic to monarchy, and we talk about election of head of states, right? Also, there is no kind of privilege in any public office, right? So we should not promote, or we are not promoting any privilege in case of public offices, right? And to secure to all its citizens JLEF, justice, social, economic and political justice. What is justice? So providing equal opportunity and without discrimination. L stands for liberty. Liberty means two things. One is absence of any outside constraints, and second is providing environment so that people can achieve their full potential, right? What is equality? Equality stands for absence of any privileges, right? And what about fraternity? Fraternity means brotherhood, right? So liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of individual and unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution. So this is our preamble, right? Let's understand some of the historical facts of preamble related to the preamble. There is an objective resolution. This objective resolution represented the aspirations of constitution makers, right? So the constitution makers, how they expected or how they envisaged Indian society, right? So this was there in the objective resolution, drafted and moved by J.L. Nehru or Pandit Nehru, right? And on 22nd January 1947, it was unanimously passed by our Constituent Assembly, right? Later on 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, with the help of this act, 3 words were added to our preamble which were not in the original document. What were those? First was socialist. So socialist word was not there in the original preamble or the objective resolution, but later with the help of 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, it was added. What is socialist or what is socialism? To understand socialism, first understand this, that we need resources for the survival, right? So people need resources for the survival. But as an individual, we are not able to control all the resources which are necessary for our survival, right? For example, I cannot create building by my own, right? I cannot make food by my own, right? If I am teaching you, so these computers or these gadgets cannot be prepared or cannot be made by me, right? So for these resources or to control these resources, we need social relationship, or we came into social relationship to control the resources, right? Who should control the resource and what should be the relationship between people? These are the two basic questions in a particular economy, right? Or in a particular social relationship, right? And for this, there are two basic principles. One is capitalism, another is communism. Capitalism says that resources should be controlled by private individuals, and as per their contribution to the social relationship or this whole society, these resources should be allocated to the private individuals. So this is the basic philosophy of capitalism inspired by Adam Smith, right? What about communism? See, this capitalism and communism, these are polar opposite philosophies, and we cannot identify any country which is either following completely capitalism or completely communism, right? But for a sake of clarity, we consider these two things as a polar opposite concepts, right? Communism talks about community ownership, right? It talks about community ownership, and it says that people should give contribution to the social relationship as per their capability, and they should appropriate the resources as per their need, right? But as I have already told you, that there is no such country which is completely following capitalism and which is completely following communism. So countries lies between these two polar opposite philosophies, right? Some countries can be more capitalist than others. Some countries can more communist than others, right? Okay. In between these two polar opposite idea, socialism came into picture, right? And this communism is based upon Marx ideology or Marxist ideology, right? Socialism talks about equality or absence of inequality and to create a just society, right? How? Because in the capitalism, if there is a private appropriation of the resources, it creates inequality because people accumulate the property, and because of these accumulation of property, they get some advantageous position, and later on this advantageous position gives them more privileges, right? So that is why it creates inequality in the society. Socialism, on the contrary, it talks about equality or absence of inequality, and it talks about just society, right? So it is in between this capitalism and socialism, right? India accepted this socialist concept, right? So people were given resources as per their need plus as per their contribution to the social relationship or the society. So this appropriation of the resources was the culmination of capitalism and the communism, right? So resources will be allocated to the people in socialist setup as per the need as well as per their contribution to the society, right? And majority of the resources will be controlled by the government itself, right? So this is the basic socialist philosophy. This socialism can be adopted in two ways. One is socialism as a means, and another is socialism as ends, right? What is means? All the resources are controlled by government itself. Initially, India adopted this model, socialism as means as well as socialism as an end, right? Later on after 1990s, when India adopted LPG reforms, right? India discarded this socialism as means because we wanted to create wealth. So that is why we adopted socialism as an end policy. How? For example, India or Indian government or central government or state governments as well, they are providing wage employment to the people. For example, MG Narega. They are providing food subsidies to the people without any expectation from the people directly, right? So they are creating a just society, or they are moving towards a just society just by redistributing the resources, right? So they are expecting socialism as an end, but they are not using socialism as means policy. Why? Because they are allowing private individual to appropriate the resources, right? So this is socialism. Second word which was added with the help of 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act was secular. In a narrower sense, secular means separation of religion from the affairs of the state, right? But this is a narrower definition. Why? Let me give you a practical example for that. UPSC in 2019 asked a question in GS paper 1. In the name of secularism, we are losing cultural elements. So if this concept secularism is something which is related with the religion and state, how come cultural elements is disturbing or getting obliterated from our society, right? So that is why we need a more holistic definition of secularism. How? Okay, let's suppose this is a timeline, and I'm not saying that modernity came to a particular point. It's a phase of history in which we saw the modernity or change in the society. But for a sake of understanding, let's suppose this is the point at which modernity came, right? Before which traditional societies were there, and after which elements of modernity came into the society, right? In these traditional societies had a peculiar nature. What? In every public sphere of life, religion was the central feature. How? For example, education. Education was governed by religion. Religious instructions were taught in the educational institutions. For example, Gurukul or Guru Shishya Parampara in traditional Indian society. But after modernity, this Gurukul Parampara was transformed into secular educational institutions. We also talk about secularization of caste system, right? Why? Earlier, caste system was governed by religious principles, but now there is very little significance of religion in terms of caste relations, right? So, to make clarity, if religion is no more the central feature of any public sphere of life, this is called secularism, right? Secularism is when religion is no more the central feature of other public sphere of life. This is called secularism, right? So this was the second term which was added in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. The third word, or earlier it was unity of the nation, unity of nation. And this unity of nation was changed to unity and integrity of nation. How these two things are different? Okay, let's suppose there are different diverse set of people, right? And they are creating a collective conscience. These diverse people are creating collective conscience. This is called unity. Even after this diversity, they are creating collective conscience. This is called unity. What about integrity? There is already collective conscience, and this collective conscience is prohibiting people from any kind of deviation. So this is called integrity. So you may have heard about this thing, like some people are following whistleblower in a particular government institution, and because of this whistleblower thing, institutional integrity can be lost, right? So this is the difference between unity of nation and unity and integrity of the nation, right? These were the three changes which were done with the help of 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, right? Let's understand some of the views of constitutional experts on our preamble. First one is Sir Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer. He was a member of drafting committee or draft committee of our Constituent Assembly, and he said that our preamble reflects dreams and aspirations of India, or newly developed, newly created India, right? K.M. Munshi, he was also member of Constituent Assembly, and he said, or he named preamble as horoscope of India's sovereign democratic republic. M. Hidayatullah, he was a ex-Chief Justice of India, and he stated that preamble is a soul of constitution, and it is also a blueprint of nation's political society, right? What are the ingredients of preamble? First is, it talks about the source of authority of the constitution. As we have already seen, we the people of India, having all the sovereign powers in our hand, and we are giving authority to our constitution, right? Second talks about nature of Indian state. What is the nature of Indian state? It is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic, right? It also talks about the objective of the constitution. Objectives of the constitution means we want to provide justice, we want to provide liberty, we want to provide equality, and we also want to maintain the fraternity among the people, right? And it also talks about the date of adoption of the constitution, and which is the major point of contention at this juncture. How? Supreme Court is asking whether the amendment of the constitution or amendment of the preamble should be done without altering the date of adoption of the constitution in the preamble itself. That was 26th November 1949, right? Let's talk about the amendability of the preamble. So there was a case, that was Re Beru Bari case 1960, right? This re signifies reference. So this was a reference case under Article 143 of the Indian Constitution, in which President can seek reference from the Supreme Court, right? So this re means reference case. So then in this Re Berubari case 1960, Supreme Court held that preamble of Indian Constitution is not a part of Constitution, right? But it is helpful in understanding the minds and views of the Constitution makers, right? In this Re Berubari case, that is Keswanand Bharti case. Keswanand Bharti case means Keswanand Bharti versus State of Kerala 1973. In this case, Supreme Court argued that preamble is the part of Indian Constitution. It can be amended with the help of Article 368 of Indian Constitution, right? So preamble was not supposed to be part of Indian Constitution in Re-Berubari case, but later in Keswanand Bharati case, Supreme Court accepted that preamble is a part of Indian Constitution, right? And we can amend the preamble with the help of Article 368, right? But this amendment should not abrogate the basic structure of the Indian Constitution, right? So there is a basic structure, and that should not be amended, that should not be altered or changed with any constitutional amendment act as described in the Keswanand Bharati case. Currently, there is a Subramaniam case, and he is seeking to change the word secular and socialist, or he want to remove these words secular and socialist from the preamble itself. Justice Dipankar Datta, he questioned whether the preamble could have been amended while retaining the original date of adoption or not. So this is the case, this was the observation of Supreme Court, and later we'll see what would be the decision by the Supreme Court. Next article is Mandal, Mandir and Now Market. This article is discussing about three important personalities to whom we are going to accord, or to whom we are going to confer Bharat Ratna Award, that is the highest civilian award in India, and their contribution to India's economy, politics and society, right? Why this is important? Because of post-independence history India. Okay, let's understand the context first. Central government has decided to confer Bharat Ratna Award to three people, important people. One is former Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. Second is Chaudhary Charan Singh. He was also former Prime Minister, as well as the Green Revolution pioneer M.S. Swaminathan. So let's have some overall idea about these three personalities. Swaminathan, he was an agricultural scientist and agronomist, and he played instrumental role in Green Revolution and towards food self-sufficiency in India. He was he was also accorded as or regarded as father of Green Revolution in India. P.V. Narasimha Rao, he was credited with steering liberalization of Indian economy. In his government, we shifted towards, or we accepted LPG reforms. Chaudhary Charan Singh was the person who set up Mandal Commission for OBC reservation in India. So he was the first person who recognized the importance of OBC reservation. He understands the underlying inequality in the Hindu society, right? So let's have some brief idea about Bharat Ratna. This was instituted in 1954. The exact year, remembering exact year is not important for our UPSC examination, but you have to think that this award was instituted just after the independence, right? Initially, the criteria for giving this award was art, literature, science and public service. Later on in 2011, one more criteria was added, any field of human endeavor, to this list, right? The recommendation for Bharat Ratna Award is given by Prime Minister to the President, and President will give to the award to respective person, right? And you will be amazed that this award is not having any kind of monetary benefits, but just to give a highest civilian award, or just to give a prestige to that person that he has contributed to our society, or that person has contributed to our society. So this award includes certificate, people leaf shaped medal, and no monetary benefits, right? But there's a very strong incentive for Bharat Ratna Award, and that is Order of Precedence. Bharat Ratna recipient ranks 7th in the Indian Order of Precedence, right? So let's have a brief understanding over the contribution of these three personalities. First, M.S. Swaminathan. India inherited poverty from Britishers, and there were two basic reasons for this poverty. Lack of development in agriculture sector and lack of development in industries, right? And what was the reason? And also, this poverty is also because of this lack of development in agriculture and industry. So there was two-way relationship between these poverty and lack of development, right? What was the reason behind poor development of agriculture? First was too much dependency over traditional forms of agriculture. Second, prolonged exploitation by Britishers or colonial rule. And third, lack of capital. So these were the three basic reasons behind poor development of agriculture. And because of this poor development in agriculture, there were certain repercussions. First repercussion, we could not feed our population. This was the biggest problem. Second, because of lack of food security, we could not witness demographic transition. Because when a society cannot ensure food security for its population, it ultimately increase the mortality rate. And once mortality rate increases, people used to procreate more children. And that is why we were very poor in terms of demographic indicators. And because of all these factors, we had to rely on certain foreign aids. And this was most humiliating for India as a nation, right? And because of all these factors, we could not provide skilled labor to industry. Once agriculture developed, then the surplus labor will go to the industry sector, right? So that is why we could not develop the industry as well, right? How Swaminathan contributed this? He gave technological solution to agricultural problems. He came up with high yield variety seeds which replaced traditional seeds, right? And because of this high yield variety seeds, the agricultural production increased multifold, right? And that is why it introduced modernization of agriculture in Indian society. Because of this modernization of agriculture in Indian society, we also saw self-sufficiency in food grain production, right? So it increased food, it ensured food security, it increased food production, it also decreased our dependency over other foreign aids, right? Also, it also empowered people and it reduced the poverty, right? We have seen the connection between agriculture and poverty, and because of which we also saw rural development. Because at that time, who were the farmers? It was the middle class or middle caste who were the real farmers. And because of this poverty alleviation, because of this increase in food production and increase in the agriculture production or productivity, we saw middle caste rise in the, or middle class increase its presence in rural, right? So this food security also alleviated India from any kind of humiliation. How? The dependency on foreign nations for foreign food grain needs was resolved. For example, India earlier was depending upon the USPL 480 schemes, and because of which India faced multiple times humiliation, right? So this was the contribution of MS Swaminathan. Now let's have a look over PV Narasimha Rao's contribution. PV Narasimha Rao inherited three major things. One is BOP crisis, that is balance of payment crisis. Second, extremism and vulnerability of Western India, specifically in Punjab. And third is the global politics shifted more towards unilateralism or unipolar world. Unipolar world, the international relation were shifted more towards unipolar world. Why? Because of disintegration of USSR. Now USA was the only superpower at the global level, right? So this was the problems that PV Narasimha Rao faced during his regime or during his tenure, and he has given beautiful solutions to all these three problems. How? Firstly, he departed from traditional socialist economic policies and he accepted more market oriented reform, and he introduced the LPG reforms in India. Second, through which we could address the balance of payment crisis. Also, USA was more interested in capitalism and he forced many a times India to adopt LPG era, and that is how he was able to appease USA at this front, right? Third is foreign policy, of course. So it was the era in which we saw unipolar world, and because of this post Cold War era, he developed or he accepted or he established new diplomatic relationship with USA and China, right? Also, Rao inherited a challenging situation in Punjab, which had been grappling with militancy for years. He negotiated with moderate Sikh leaders and addressed some of the legitimate demands of Sikh community. This political resolution played a crucial role in ending the militancy. Right? What about Chaudhry Charan Singh? He was also ex-prime minister, and he had a very crucial and important role in rural development, farmers' welfare, and OBC reservation. How? So he introduced many agricultural reforms and farmer welfare initiatives during his tenure. For example, UP Jamidar and Land Reforms Act 1952 was introduced by Charan Singh, aimed to strike a moral blow at the landlord class by implementing land reforms that would empower tenants and tiller of the soil. Second, he exempted fertilizers from sales tax. He exempted the land revenue for farmers owning land up to 3.5 acres. Right? He also was in favor of social justice, and that is why he understood the underlying unjust structure of Hindu society. So he recognized OBC community and he saw that they were not the SCs, they were not the STs, but they were not also privileged class. So that is why he recognized and he established Mandal Commission in 1979, which became the base or infrastructure for further OBC reservation. Next article is Fugitives will be extradited, says Finance Minister. Who are fugitives? The people who has departed from India and against whom arrest warrant has been issued by some competent court, and this court has designated that person as fugitive. So those persons will be called as fugitives. Now, Finance Minister and our law enforcement agencies are trying to bring those fugitives back to India. Why this is important? Under GS paper 2, we have act such as Fugitives Economic Offenders Act 2018. Also, we have extradition treaty that can be asked under GS paper 2. Also in GS paper 3, these fugitives have a very profound impact, negative in negative sense, profound impact on Indian economy. So that is why this article is important for us. Previously, UPSC has asked such type of question related to such type of crimes and all. For example, they have asked prohibition of Benami Property Transaction Act 1988 in 2017. So that is why this article becomes very important for us. What is the context? There are fugitive offenders, Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, Sanjay Bhandari, and those people should be extradited to India, right? So that is why Finance Minister said on Friday discussion on white paper that has been submitted by Finance Minister earlier. And she is saying or claiming that India is now working more hard on taking back those fugitive economic offenders to India back. So we have already discussed who are fugitive economic offenders against whom the arrest warrant has been issued by competent court, and they have departed from India with the intention of evading any kind of criminal prosecution, right? So what are the legal provisions for that? So there is an act, Fugitive Economic Offenders Act 2018. The major aim of this act to confiscate properties of those economic offenders so that money can be recovered or the losses can be compensated by this confiscation of the properties, right? This act also defines the fugitive economic offenders as the person against whom an arrest warrant has been issued for committing crime or offense that are listed in this particular act. What are those offenses? We'll be discussing, but those crime should be worth of value at least 100 crore. So these three things are important for prelims point of view. Some of the offenses that are listed in this act are counterfeiting government stamps or currency, second, check dishonor, third, money laundering, and transactions defrauding creditors, right? So these are some of the offenses which are listed under this article, right? Who can declare a fugitive economic offender? So under Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, under this act, special courts should be created or has been created, right? And now these special courts have power of civil court. These courts can designate a particular person as fugitive economic offenders, right? And these courts can order for the confiscation of the properties, right? Under this act, the search and seizure of persons and premises has been given to that particular civil court or that special court, right? And there is a provisional attachment of properties is allowed while the application is pending before the special court, right? Along with these provisions, there is also a specific or peculiar provision to bar these people or the entities which are associated with these people on filing or defending civil claims. How? The act allows civil courts or tribunals to prohibit a declared fugitive economic offender from filing or defending any civil claim. Also, the companies or LLPs, limited liability partnership, where such individuals hold majority shares, may also be debarred from filing or defending civil claims, right? There are certain other legal provisions through which we are trying to curb these type of economic offenses, such as PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Benami Properties Transaction Act 1988, and third is Companies Act 2013, which punishes fraud and unlawful acceptance of deposits. Apart from these, IAPC and CRPC also have certain provisions. But apart from these provisions and laws, we also have a provision of extradition. What is extradition? Let's suppose this is country India and there is another country, let's suppose this is B. A person X has committed crime in India and flew away to B. If India and B has extradition treaty, B will send back this X to India and vice versa is there, right? So there is an Indian Extradition Act 1962 which regulates any kind of extradition with some other foreign countries, right? India has currently extradition treaties with almost 40 countries, extradition agreements with 11 countries. And this act is also defining the extradition treaty, right? Section 2D of the Indian Extradition Act 1962 defines extradition treaty as a binding agreement made by India with a foreign country or foreign state concerning the extradition of fugitive criminals, right? There are three basic principles this act is following. First is principle of dual criminality. Second is prima facie case. And third is fair trial. So, India and B if both countries are agreed on a particular crime and they are recognizing this crime as a crime or this act as a crime, a particular act as a crime, then it comes under principle of dual criminality, right? So this act is adhering to principle of dual criminality, ensuring the offense is recognized in both the requesting and requested countries, right? Second is, let's suppose India is asking for a person to extradite from B to A, India, right? So this requested country must find a prima facie case against the offender, right? Or the courts in the requested country should find a prima facie case against the X person, right? And third is, in any case, accused is entitled for fair trial. So if country is asking India to extradite a person Y, let's suppose, so if India is sure that free trial is or can be ensured in case of Y, then only India can extradite that person to a particular country. Who is the nodal authority for this or this whole extradition purpose? Consular, Passport and Visa Division under the Ministry of External Affairs serves as the nodal authority, and they are administering the Extradition Act. Next article is, India can purchase natural gas at below market price. This article is talking about India Energy Week. This is an event which is going on in Goa, and India's Petroleum Secretary is asserting that India now can purchase natural gas below than international market price. How? Now we are going to diversify our international imports. Okay. Why this natural gas, oil import or energy is important for us? Because of three basic reasons. One is economic reason. Because of geographical location, because of its geographical feature, India is not well versed of energy sources in terms of oil and coal, right? So that is why we have to rely on imports, oil imports and natural gas imports, right? And it is creating burden on our import. That is why it is creating current account deficit. It's a basic major source, fundamental source of current account deficit, right? Second thing is, this economy is fueled by energy sources itself. So if we maintain our energy sources, if we have continuity in our energy sources, we can ensure long term as well as sustained growth, right? Second thing is strategic. In case of any volatility in the international arena, specifically to those regions which are providing the oil or natural gases, we see fluctuation in the prices of oil and natural gases, and that is why it becomes very strategic for India's development. Also, there is a concept known as Asian premium. The OPEC countries, OPEC is a organization or cartel for those countries who are major producer of oil and natural gases. So they are charging more to Asian countries in comparison to European or American countries, right? So this is the Asian premium, and this is also having a strategic significance for India. Third is environmental. Energy is directly related with environment. If we cut our energy production or if we cut our energy consumption, it will hamper our development. But if we increase our energy consumption, it will definitely affect our environment. Also, it is going to impact our INDC, that is nationally determined contribution for Paris Agreement, right? So that is why from these 3 points of view, energy, oil import and natural gas import is important. Why this is important for UPSC examination? There is a topic in GS paper 3, energy, economic growth, environmental pollution and degradation, that is directly related to this topic. Let's understand the importance of this concept or this issue from previous year question point of view. In mains examination 2013, UPSC asked this question. It is said that India has substantial reserves of shale oil and gas which can feed the need of country for quarter century. However, tapping of these resources does not appear to be high on the agenda. Discuss critically the availability and issue involved. In prelims also, UPSC asked this question. Consider the following statements. Natural gas occurs in Gondwana beds. Mica occurs in abundance in Koderma. And Dharwas are famous for petroleum. So, you can see this energy or oil or natural gas, it's important for both prelims as well as mains. What is context? As we have already discussed, Secretary of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, it highlighted India's rising role as global energy demand center. How? Currently, India is the third largest in terms of energy consumption after China and USA. And current share or global share is 6.1%. And it is expected to rise to 9.8% by 2050. And by that time, India will become largest energy consumer in the world, right? Also, when you see natural gas, in India's energy mix, natural gas contribution is almost 6.7%, and India is trying to increase it to 15% by 2030, right? That is why natural gas is coming more and more in the news, right? Creating opportunities for the country to secure natural gas at competitive prices internationally, right? So let's come to basics. Natural gas. It's highly flammable gas. It's a mixture of gas, but mostly it is methane, that is CH4. It's a chemical formula for methane, right? So it's a flammable gas mixture, primarily methane, more than 90%. How do we extract and produce natural gas? So you see, it is found alongside the oil regions. So whenever we find any oil region, natural gas is found or can be found alongside the oil regions, right? And the method of extraction is mostly known as fracking. What is fracking? It's a hydraulic fracturing. The full form of fracking is hydraulic fracturing. Along with fracking, we can also use we can use horizontal drilling as well, right? What are the applications? First, as a fuel, we can use. Second, as a chemical feedstock, we can use. Third, heating and cooking. Fuel, it can be used to create or generate electricity. When we compress natural gas, it becomes CNG, compressed natural gas, and it can be used for vehicles as well. Urea or other fertilizers are being made with the help of CH4 or methane or natural gas, right? And also it can be used for cooking. As we see in the city, we use or we consume natural gas, right? How it is important in energy transition in India? Mostly we rely on coal and oil, specifically petrol and diesel, right? These sources are not renewable and it can exhaust in upcoming years, right? Also, it is polluting, right? Methane or natural gas is more environmental friendly in comparison to these sources. How? When we oxidize this thing, it comes CO2 plus H2O, right? It makes CO2 and H2O. These are less polluting, firstly. Secondly, it is not creating any carbon shoot or any black carbon, right? So that is why it is less polluting than these resources, right? So it's a cleaner energy form, right? Also, it is working as a bridge fuel. How? So there is an intermittency in terms of renewable energies. How? Let's suppose wind. Wind is a renewable energy or renewable form of energy, but there are two seasons. One is abundant season and second is lean season. Sometimes wind energy can be produced with the help of wind abundantly, right? But sometimes we find that there is a less availability of wind that is capable enough to create wind energy. Also, when we talk about solar energy, In daytime, solar energy is favorable, but what about during nights? It's not favorable. So while these kind of transition can be done with the help of methane or natural gas, right? There's also economic factors because it contributes to energy security and economic gain. How? It is helpful in producing plastic and organic products such as urea or other fertilizers, right? Okay, but what are the challenges? Firstly, the most important is environmental impact. Though it is not creating much polluting substances, but it is also creating CO2, which has certain greenhouse gas effect. Also, if we see methane leakage, this methane is almost 80 to 100 times more potent than CO2 or carbon dioxide, and it is also creating GHG effect, right? So that is why it is also a matter of concern, but it's not that much important as comparison to coal and oil. So that is why it becomes very important for our energy transition. How prices are being discovered or how prices are managed in India as far as natural gas is concerned. So there are two types of gases. One is domestic gas, the domestic production that we can see in this diagram, that this Gujarat, Bombay High Basin, Andhra Pradesh, Assam and Tripura, these are the natural gas producer states in India. So there are certain states or some states which are producing domestically, right? And we are also importing natural gas from other countries as well. So for domestic gas, there are two sub mechanisms. One is administered price mechanism, that is APM. This mechanism is used for all those units or all those areas where we have already discovered gases and we are extracting from those reservoirs, right? And government is directly finalizing the ceiling amount and the base amount for the natural gas prices. This production sharing contract is for those units to which we haven't discovered yet or we are yet to discover the natural gases. And in these fields, the prices are linked with oil prices or international oil prices, right? Not the international gas prices, but international oil prices, right? What about imported gas? There are two sub mechanisms. One is spot prices and another is long term contracts. Spot prices are those, like for example, if we have to manage short term availability of natural gases, we are using spot prices. So on the spot we are discovering the prices and we are purchasing and we are supplying it to internal or domestic uses. And another is long term contracts. Some countries or to some units we are having some long term contracts and we are on the basis of those long contracts we are purchasing natural gas. There is another concept which is known as pooling of gas. See, the prices of natural gas is very volatile in international market. To prevent this volatility or to prevent any misadventure because of this volatility in the international market and to protect our domestic consumers, what we are doing, we are mixing these two gases. We are creating pooling of gases and we are ensuring continuous supply to domestic consumption so that prices can be administered, right? So this is pooling of gas. The most important comes here, how we can secure our natural gas import at competitive prices internationally. So there are four basic ways. One is long-term contracts. How? So we have to come up with some long-term contracts with some units or some fields or some countries, right? So negotiating agreements with natural gas producing countries for stable pricing over extended periods, right? Second is we need to diversify our import basket, right? So sourcing natural gas from multiple countries to reduce dependency on any single supplier, right? Third is participation in international consortia, that is joining or forming consortia for exploration and production to access the gas at production cost. And fourth is strategic investment. We need to invest more like LNG terminals and pipelines abroad for secure supplies and potential price benefits. Next article is bids in pieces. This article talks about bilateral investment treaty. What is this bilateral investment treaty? So let's suppose there are two countries, A and B, and they are having a bilateral investment treaty. Through this bilateral investment treaty or BIT, they are ensuring or they are promoting and protecting investment of other countries by some entities such as individual or companies. For example, if a company X of country B wants to invest in country A, so this BIT will protect its investment or investment done by company X in the country A, right? So this is BIT, bilateral investment treaty. This BIT has, or India has a very bitter experience with these BITs. How? Before 2016, India had many BITs with many countries or bilateral investment treaty with many countries. And these BITs had three major issues. One was inverted duty structure, lack of four-sidedness, and third, increase in cases or economic cases under judiciary. That increased burden of judiciary. How? What is this inverted duty structure? The taxes on final product is lesser than the taxes on the input. So what was happening? Let's suppose there was a country X and India signed a bilateral investment treaty with this X. Now X is exporting raw materials to India as well as finished good, right? And the tax on finished good was lesser than the tax on raw material. So India could not develop industry in this case. And this is called inverted duty structure. There was also lack of four-sidedness because these BITs were not able to handle any kind of tax evasions. For example, Vodafone case. And third is it increased because of lack of conflict resolution mechanism or robust conflict resolution mechanism. It increased cases in Indian judiciary or judicial system. Why this is important? Because bilateral investment treaty, this article is talking about bilateral investment treaty. Also, it is important for India's economic development. Okay, let's understand the context. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced during the interim budget, Union budget, that India plans to negotiate bilateral investment treaties to attract more foreign direct investment. What is BIT? We have already. These are the agreements between two countries to promote and protect investment in each other's territories by individuals and companies. India initiated BITs in mid-90s with the aim of providing favorable condition and treaty-based protection to foreign investors, right? So let's see evolution of BITs in India. First signed with UK or United Kingdom on March 14, 1994. Date is not important, but year is important and the country is important for prelims point of view. Attention to the BIT regime increased in 2010 with the settlement of first investor treaty claim against India. In 2011, India faced its first adverse award in dispute arising from Australia-India BIT. Then model BIT in 2016 came into picture. But this has also issues. What? We'll see. Due to challenges and disputes that we have already discussed, three major issues were there. India adopted model BIT in 2016 and terminated 68 out of 74 existing treaties. And this was supposed to be, or this was considered as a protectionist measures by other countries and companies. And this was a very harsh setback on India's economic development, or FDI. How it has created challenges and how it impacted. So negotiating with other countries, especially regarding dispute settlement, has proven difficult, leading to a decline in FDI equity inflows. FDI equity inflows in India declined by 24% to $20.48 billion in April-September 2023. Now, what are the proposed challenges in this article itself? The proposed FTA, or Foreign Trade Agreement, aims to address challenges to dispute risk settlement. So we have to work on these three parts: how to resolve the dispute, how to avoid any kind of inverted duty structure, and how to avoid tax evasion in these treaties, right? By providing a mechanism for timely resolution through international arbitration, right? So this international arbitration is important. Apart from that, timely resolution is also important. Why? See, India's rank in ease of contract enforcement is low, standing 163 out of 190. So that is why we need timely resolution of cases or such type of cases, so that we can increase FDI inflow in India. In 2021, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs recommended revisiting the existing BIT regime. And recommendations include timely dispute settlements through pre-arbitration consultations, development of local expertise in investment arbitration, and alignment with the global best practices. Right? So we need to train our judiciary as well, so that it can improve the adjudication. Okay. It is crucial to implement committee's recommendation to enhance India's standing and encourage robust international trade and stable investments. Conclusion: a progressive approach to BITs is deemed crucial for India's pursuit of 5 trillion economy, emphasizing the importance of timely dispute resolution and alignment with global best practice. So far, we have discussed all the important articles which were important for today's discussion. Now, let's do some practice questions. So, the first question is, consider the following statements about natural gas. Natural gas is primarily composed of butane. No, this is wrong statement. It is majorly composed of methane. It has higher calorific value than petroleum. Correct. Burning natural gas emits less carbon dioxide than burning petroleum and coal. This is also correct. So 2 and 3, B part would be correct answer. Consider the following statements about Preamble of Indian Constitution. It mentioned the date of adopting the Constitution as January 26, 1950. This is wrong. 26 November 1949. Preamble of the Constitution can be amended any number of times, and in its entirety, no, it cannot. Any amendment cannot abrogate basic structure, right? So this is also incorrect statement. Preamble of the Constitution is justifiable, and one can seek the intervention of judiciary. It's not justifiable. So all of the statement are incorrect. So D part would be the correct answer. Next question is regarding the natural gas pricing mechanism in India. Consider the following statements. The administered price mechanism sets the prices for natural gas produced from the fields of multinational corporation operating in India. No, this is incorrect. National companies, national corporations operating in India, such as IUCL and all. So this is incorrect statement. Under production sharing contracts, PSCs, gas pricing is linked to global crude oil prices. That is correct, which often results in higher prices compared to APM gas. This is also correct. Gas pooling mechanism is employed to average the cost of domestic and imported gas for non-priority sector. No, priority sector such as domestic use or fertilizers. So this is incorrect statement. How many or which of the statements given above are not correct? So answer question is asking about not correct. So 1 and 3 is not correct. So answer would be C part. Consider the following statements on Fugitive Economic Offenders Act 2018. The act empowers authorities to confiscate the property of economic offenders who evade prosecution by leaving the country. Sahi. Correct. Only high courts can officially label someone a fugitive. Only high court is not correct answer, but special courts. special courts under PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, are authorized to label someone as economic offender. Of course, High Court can also do this thing. Court can also label some person, but it's not the only High Court, but also the special courts. So this is incorrect statement. Correct would be first one only. Let's do some means practice question. Examine the contribution of Chaudhry Charan Singh in shaping post-independence India. So if it is asking about post-independence India, we have to stick to the phase after 1947, and contribution like agriculture, contribution in agricultural development or rural development, farmers welfare, and social justice should be there, with a focus on agricultural reform, rural development, and social justice. So briefly, we need to introduce about Chaudhry Charan Singh, and then we have to explain the agricultural reforms that were brought by the Chaudhry Charan Singh, like Jamindari and Land Reforms Act, abolition of landlordism and empowerment of tenants, rural development initiatives such as Gramdan movement, social justice policies such as upliftment of backward classes, specifically the Mandal Commission, and consolidation and reorganization impact, that is agricultural reforms and rural development initiatives. In conclusion, we can emphasize the enduring impact of his policies on agricultural practices, rural development, and social justice, contributing to the broader theme of consolidation and reorganization within the country. So, through this, we are concluding today's discussion. If you like our initiative, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.